As we shift to hazardous waste, federal authority is heightened. With solid waste, RCRA simply provides legal parameters for siting and management that states and local jurisdictions must abide by. But with hazardous material, because of the danger involved, the federal role here is much more detailed and controlling. Let's begin with how the law defines a hazardous waste. There are two components to what triggers RCRA coverage of a hazardous waste. One component is that a hazardous waste is a subset of solid waste, so the definition of solid waste must apply. I'm going to defer discussing this until the next micro lecture below. For now, I want to focus on listed and characteristic wastes. Classifying a waste as hazardous requires looking at four possible bins. The first bin is straightforward. It's an explicit listing and a regulation of hazardous waste. EPA identifies several categories identified by letter codes F, K, P, and U lists. These letter categories represent classes of industrial waste. The second bin is a waste that meets at least one of the following characteristics: ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, or toxicity. The law defines each of these. For example, ignitable is defined as having a flash point below 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The third bin is waste that has been mixed with the listed waste. People have tried to dilute hazardous waste by mixing it with non-hazardous waste. But if any of the two bins above are included in the waste, then it's considered hazardous. The final bin is waste derived from a listed waste. Popular derived hazardous waste is the ash from incinerating hazardous waste. In this case, the ash may still be hazardous and requires disposal as a hazardous substance. One of our cases this week discusses this. Now that we know what is regulated, let's move on to who is regulated. RCRA divides hazardous waste handlers into three camps: generators, transporters, and owners or operators of treatment, storage, disposal facilities. Each one is heavily regulated under the law. Let's begin with those who create the hazardous waste, the generators. The first thing the generator does is create a manifest system with an EPA identifier number. The manifest acts as a log which identifies the waste material in detail, includes an appropriate warning label, and has to be placed in an appropriate container, identifies the transporter and the final destination of the waste. The manifest travels with the waste, and copies must be retained by the generator and given to every entity that touches the waste after it leaves the generating facility. Once the waste is transferred to a transporter, the transporter must sign the manifest. And once the waste arrives at the TSD facility, a copy of the completed signed manifest is returned to the generator. The manifest is important because if the TSD facility does not receive the waste in the expected time frame, or it arrives without the manifest, or anything is incorrect or missing, then the TSD facility must notify the generator, EPA, and the state. One area of great concern for generators is storing the waste on-site beyond the legal time frame. The maximum stay for waste on-site is 90 days. If the waste is stored longer, then the generator becomes a storage facility operator, and this requires rigorous data keeping, storage, emergency preparedness, and training. Next is the transporter. Transporters must comply with similar record keeping and compliance requirements of the manifest system, for example, ensuring that the manifest stays with the shipment to its destination. But transport safety rules largely come under the Department of Transportation's Hazardous Materials Transportation Act. Like generators, transporters also have a storage limit. If a transporter stores the waste for more than 10 days, the transporter must comply with the storage facility operator requirements described above. Finally, the transporter is liable in case of any spill while the waste is under its control. By far, TSD facilities have the most rigorous requirements. First, unlike generators and transporters, a TSD facility must receive a permit prior to operation, and this comes under APA public comment and review. When a TSD facility receives waste from the transporter, the facility needs to store the waste prior to its treatment and disposal. There are various storage options available, including the ones listed here. A storage structure can be earthen or non-earthen, but it must be designed to safely hold the waste for short duration periods. Most earthen storage areas, such as impoundments, have synthetic liners to prevent liquids from escaping. The danger with storage is when the operator stores waste indefinitely without proper treatment or disposal. Treatment of hazardous waste involves destroying or neutralizing the hazardous constituents so it's no longer hazardous. This might involve incineration or landfills that treat the waste or some kind of chemical or biological treatment. Finally, disposal. This can include disposing of the treated waste in the storage options below if combined with treatment, or if it's a liquid waste, it can be injected underground. While land disposal was banned, EPA does allow land burial if the waste is neutralized beforehand. Generally, TSD facilities must also comply with similar closure and post-closure requirements as solid waste landfills. The facility must be designed to prevent potential contact with the waste by people, including controls and barriers to prevent entry. The facility must regularly conduct inspections and employ monitoring and emergency equipment in case of a leak. Personnel must be trained on operation safety and emergency responsibilities. The facility must monitor for any groundwater contamination with a leachate detection system. Closure and post-closure requirements involve capping the site, and insurance funds must be available for 30 years post-closure to address the need to remove and decontaminate the waste.